My name is Ben Franks. I've been Orthodox for about 5 or 6 years now. I was raised a Christian. I was raised Baptist specifically by very, very devout, God-fearing parents. Raised in a very healthy and happy home. Taught always to love God, to love the Scriptures, and raised with a very thorough knowledge of them. When I was about 14, my parents moved to Poland as Baptist missionaries, and obviously I went with them. And went to high school at a Polish high school and had a good time and enjoyed myself and grew very much in the faith while I was there, and definitely came to treat my Christian faith as my own during that time. But when I got back to the United States for university, I got a little too smart for myself, got to where I really wanted to feel like I know something, feel like I had put God in a box that I understood, and I actually became a Calvinist, and a very, very loveless one at that. I believed that there was no good in humanity. I believed that there was no good in creation itself. I remember telling a friend of mine that the only thing I didn't understand about God was his love, which is to say anything. I remember, in fact, having a conversation with a friend where I told him that God probably sent even aborted children to hell because they're human beings and they deserve it. And that would give you some idea of just who God was in my mind, and the lack of any love either within myself or within my idea of God. And I began to look seriously at historic Christianity around this time, not because I wanted to be closer to God or anything of the sort, but because I wanted to be right. And in order to be right in any sort of religious discussion I had, you needed to have some knowledge of history. And so I began to read a lot of history. Began to read early Christian writings, both theological and spiritual. And one of the big ones I read at that time was Augustine's Confessions, and it was really life-changing because Augustine is he's dearly beloved by Calvinists, but really not for any reason, because he wasn't one. But I felt like I needed to read him if I was going to be a Calvinist, so I read Augustine's Confessions. And in it I found a man that dearly loved God. And that was something that I didn't have. And it profoundly affected me. And I read this more, and I read some of his other writings, and I read other writings of those like him, and began to really look at Orthodoxy. And as I was looking at Orthodoxy, I became intellectually convinced of everything that Orthodoxy claimed, and became Orthodox again, not because I loved God, but because I wanted to be right. And it was only when I was in Orthodoxy for about a year that I really, through these different readings, through the reading of the Scriptures, which I hadn't done in years at that point. I started to read the Scriptures again after I became Orthodox, and actually praying, again, something I hadn't done in years. That I really started to understand the depths of God's love and who He is and why He loves us and what that demands of us. And that's why I stayed Orthodox.